All right. Hello, everybody. It is 24 hours later from I think, my last recording session. I'm still just as exhausted, but I'm powering through it, trying to bring you guys the content you want. Probably going to have to do a update video at some point in the near future for just FF9 once we get some more stuff. But today we got a treat. What's better than one? Two. And the reason that we're doing two today is kind of, well, essentially, I got lucky. I didn't spend any paid lapis. I was able to close out a Vivi out of just a sheer, what the hell, let's finish, let's do it one more pull kind of idiocy and getting rewarded by sheer dumb luck. So there you go. Excuse me. But yeah, today we're going to be taking a look at Vivi. We're going to be doing the review and just doing a little bit of the test. I am certain no expert at this point of Vivi, just because he is still a new character and well, yeah, essentially. But we're just going to do it. All right, so Vivi, 100 cost dark elemental character, a mage-based character, and a pretty interesting one, because if you were interested in Zidaine, but you kind of wanted to flip it around and be like, hey, let's have a magic version of that is exactly who Vivi is. Vivi is a very offensive mage, who I would say is not exactly the most durable. Interestingly, he does have a bunch of stuff in his kit that is really good for him, for keeping him alive. But at the same time, he doesn't have a staggering amount of HP, which makes him a little bit brittle, and that feels true to the character. Vivi is a powerhouse in FF9, but at the same time, he is a brittle character who can get stomped because he doesn't have the highest amount of HP. So gameplay design-wise, perfect, super fine. So today we're just gonna do a little bit of one of the party members that I think absolutely needs to be in this group, which is Wrath, because Wrath is just the one of, if not now, the best dark unit. I think just overall, just like there. Now, personally, my Wrath probably could be a little more optimized, but we'll just go with this for tonight. This kind of thing, I think, this roughly balances out between the two. So, taking a look, here is my Vivi at level 81 out of 89. Sorry for him not being max, but again, first 24 hours-ish. Give me a bit of a break. But you can see these are his resistances, numbers, and percentages. And then we go up to the 140 version. It's slightly different equipment, but I still think it gets a point across of what he will generally look like. A 3-man party without really too many hollow VC from the future, pumping him up, but just resistances are pretty good across the board. Mage and Pierce, I've already mentioned, it is one of the places where it kind of struggles the most. But overall, his build looks really solid, and I think definitely good enough to earn a pretty semi-permanent spot in most dark parts. Now he does have 3 jobs: Blade Soul, Red Mage, and his new one, which is his exclusive Final Fantasy IX kit. Taking a look at him, he is basically like a lot of other more recent characters that, you know, you have to get to 140 to get access to all of the good stuff in his kit. And it is worth it. It absolutely is worth it, but this is kind of the push that they are making people go to. And I think, yeah, again, it's just worth it. Master ability will give him magic attack resistance penetration of 20 and critical evasion of 20, so keep him alive a little bit more. Dream enhancement will give him an extra 20% magic and a reduction. Skill casting time. There we go. I can say that because his kit does have casting. As for equipment, really quickly, Trust Mastery does give a skill that increases agility to himself and units around him, and grants the Dispel Auto Restore for 3. which is interesting because it works for allies. So if you think about just some of the stuff he can disable, this is a pretty nice little TMR. It also has a bit of accuracy and a decent magic stat to it. Even if Vivi isn't necessarily going to be like the new Sephiroth of this year in terms of insanely powerful characters that are meta warping, because it is still early and we don't know what all the equipment does yet. This is a pretty good reward to get off a very clearly strong character. As for his staff is very offensive based and probably just the best piece of equipment for him. Yes, some equipment from Wave Trial might be a little bit here or there, but this is easy to get, easy to equip and just use, and it does give a unique bonus of not being able to be seized down, which is good for, a little bit of a tempo-based group, which could be kind of cool. All right, so this is what we're going up against. Lightning is pretty strong. My Charlotte, not particularly amazing, but we're really just going to see how Vivi scales as he goes up in levels. I've already seen some demonstrations of him. His DPS seems really solid. But yeah, I don't know. Enough talking. At least get some setup going. Constantly as we want. We want to be getting our characters out. Just start throwing some buffs here and there. We want to get some things. All right. Here we got Vivi. Check out that animation. That is fantastic animation. Slow it down a little bit so people can enjoy. That is very, very Vivi. Okay. Very, very true to. All right. Jumping in quick. So here is Vivi, and I do want really quickly just double check before I say this because if I am in the right spot, and I checked this earlier, but I don't want to give people the wrong thing. So here's the interesting thing. Before this came out, there was kind of a debate about whether Vivi was going to be human or not. And interestingly, he is labeled as human lineage in his actual character sheet, which is weird. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think they probably bit the bullet, made him kind of a demon or something else, but it's curious that they've gone with human over some other options that will probably affect some people's overall evaluation of this character, but not me in particular. I still think that this. Now, taking a look at the spreadsheet here, you're going to notice a couple of interesting things, which deals with his support skills once he gets 40. Primarily, you get all basically from EX skill activation time down and auto revive immediately casting from of a battle, which is really good because Vivi has ways of preventing removable auto re-raise, cancellation, which is very, very good. You also get single target attack resistance, but when you get him into 140, he also gets a condition that when his HP drops below 50%, he actually gets a 40% H heal, which is just really, really good. Now, there's more than a good chance that he is going to effectively be killed because if he doesn't have some kind of protection, he's just not necessarily super durable, especially in certain damage types, depending on how you build him, which is something I'm going to come back to in a second. But really, he is going to depend on auto re-raise to kind of cheese out some in sometimes. It's looking pretty good, so I'm pretty happy. As for his other one, it's just a magic and HP up, 12% for HP, 24% for magic, pretty standard. And actually, not super exciting. The one that both the friend unit and I agree with is Plate Soul, which gives him a 12% agility boost, spirit penetration of 40, and critical rate of 12. All three things here are generally really strong, and I could see would like them. There is a few other things with Red Mage and Blade Soul giving some potentially slightly different builds but I really, really like this combination. Seems to be generally what most people do. As for counter, can counter flash and magic damage at 70% with a return damage. Unfortunately, it's not a preemptive, which is a bit disappointing. Or wait. Oh, it is a preemptive counter. I'm sorry, I'm lying. I missed the icon right there. That's right in front of my face. But it is a preemptive counter to certain types of damage. And Strike is very much a thing right now. Pierce is looking back. But don't overvalue this counter too much. Red Mage does give him a just magic evade, which could be good into matchups with Soul. And the other one, Blade Soul, is too short of range and probably just not good enough considered. As for the sub parts of his kit, since unfortunately the friend unit doesn't have it and I haven't unlocked them yet, we'll talk about them really fast. Red Mage gives him Zuna, it gives him Sleep, it gives him a Dark Damage spell, and it gives him the decrease non-skill activation time for turn if an ally has one of the following effects: haste, and also grants haste, and increases single target resistance by 20 for an ally target that has one of the following effects: haste. So basically has haste plus bonuses, which is probably an interesting combination with him. He's already pretty fast. I don't know if you necessarily want to run that skill because it could get his AI in trouble where he runs in front of Raph and then he's just a prime target, he dies, and you know, it feels kind of bad. Blade Soul to me is a little more interesting because it gives him another avenue to being strong against other mages, which is a barrier that reduces magic damage taken by 7,500 HP herself and increases slash attack resistance, which is only good for Blade Soul attacks, but that HP barrier is pretty juicy to just soak up a lot of damage and effectively double his effective HP. I think is really good. But the thing that you will be giving up are two skills. One TP skill and one other skill. Let's take a look at the skill first. And what it is petrification, which petrification kind of an odd status effect that nobody really uses and nobody really about all that, which could be just generally pretty interesting for catching an opponent off guard. As you can see, this one, which is the 140 Vivi, doesn't exactly have the highest percent chance, but worth the time, it works every time potentially, which is probably good enough to be considered. The other ability that he has is Bio, which is just a higher chance. First off, it is single target, so it can get around certain enemies' defenses. It has a better chance of proccing, and if poison is actually put into effect, then the target loses 30 spirit, which is really, really nasty and can potentially power up an entire mage team, which is essentially also I'm using essentially where I think Vivi is going to do best, maybe even cutting Sephiroth. But yes, it is true. As for the main part of his kit, we do have a couple of abilities. First off, one that grants protect and increases magic attack resistance by 40, and gives him the ability, and not only him, but allies too. If any of their attacks hit an opponent, then the opponent is not able to remove re-raise with re-raise remove ability. So in other words, Vivi casts this buff, it gets put on a character, the character attacks Sephiroth, Sephiroth's limit burst no longer removes auto revive, and you are just good. Take advantage of that in a lot of different ways. The second ability is basically, well, it's his focus ability, which if you played FF9, you know a little but decrease attack skill activation, increase magic by 40% for 3 turns, and reaction block rate of 50 for 3 turns, which is a pretty overall nice buff. I think it's very possible for him to cast both of these buffs at the start of the battle and not have a problem. From there, we have a bunch of different attacks. We have reduced counter chance by 100% for 3 turns off of his basic 16 ability. This one right here, which I do believe covering over. We have the spell Shell for targets with a 100% hit chance. And this one I do want to talk about just a little bit, show off the range on it, because the range is really good. It's AoE, and getting rid of Shell is a pretty nice thing that some mages struggle with. So bring that to the party. Next up, a large AoE spell for 36 HP, which decreases elemental chain resistance by 40 for 3 turns, which is pretty unique when upgraded. I mean, it's also a 220 mod on a big AoE, but it restores 200 CT for himself. Since he can't be CT down, you can just kind of get a lot of nice turns out of it. And the last ability, non-elemental damage layer, which is single target and just cancels re-raise with a mod. So just if we were to take a second and take a look at what this is doing against certain characters, maybe not necessarily built for mages, caught unaware by a pure mage team, Charlotte a little bit stronger, but both new Astrius and Bridal Elia do kind of suffer against this kind of ability. Interestingly, Vivi during early preview yesterday on the friend event did have a lot of single target resistance, but very little AoE resistance, which made me a little bit concerned. It seems that you can build him for one way or the other, but him getting caught in AoEs is far scarier to me, which is why I also incredibly recommend having the Chaos Bahamut or Dark Bahamut vision card, as it's a major source for AoE resistant characters, and provided with a good tank, which Wrath is, well, you're got kind of a stew cook. Anyway, so let's just go back. We're going to cast this magic buff. We're going to get Astrius standing up here. Doing not terribly much, but also getting our spell status. And we, just the way this is going right now, we will half right here, her with her buff, and get our Vivi up. Now our Vivi doesn't have all of the skills yet, so it's a little bit hard to, 100% see exactly how it would be, but look at this. Just even a level 81 is still doing pretty good amounts of damage. Now again, Bridal could probably be a little bit more magic focused, anti-magic focused, but you can see that she isn't exactly a slouch either right now. The one thing that is kind of a bit of a concern, Vivi's Limit Burst, one of the big selling features is the stun effect, and Bridal Elia is actually just really resistant to stun. So if you're planning on taking on a lot of Bridal Elias, this can essentially not work super well for you. Taking a look at my unmastered Vivi, only essentially a 24% stun on him, but an 88% stun on other characters, which is pretty crazy for a level 1 limit burst to have essentially a guaranteed stun off of it and decent amount of damage. More AoE resistance could be decreased, but it could also be stronger. So next up, we're going to cast this and get our auto re-raise protection. Now my Vivi does not have auto re-raise, so that's a little bit scary. We're going to take just a little bit of damage here, but nothing. And Astrius is just going to show why he is good at what he does. So without running too much more buffs, let's take a look at the skills. Oh, hi Sora. Would you like to join us? He's being scored. Let's take a look here. Come on. Alright, Dad's doing a 40-minute review as per usual. Taking a look at his stats, you can see pretty close to 2,000 and easily could be over 2,000 with a few changes, but still 102 speed, which is pretty nice. Decent resistances also across the board. So let's see what a full limit burst is going to do here. Oh no, we're going to kill other Vivi, but you can see the stun resistance just isn't going to work super well against characters that already have it. But if we swap around other characters, we do get that naturally just really high chance of getting a stun, even 100% with the 140 version of Vivi. Nice. Going back over and just taking a look at Flare right now, doing a high amount of damage. And pretty good for limit. Great, so let's just do more buffing. We're going to run this buff next. From his Trust Mastery, we're up to a 115 speed. Very, very nice, I think. And we're going to try not to get all of our Vivis killed. Or, well, my Vivi killed, essentially. A little early to start murdering. Can't see it, but I actually have a purring cat right next to me. That's always. Right, so we're running a few of the other abilities. Barrier up. And last but not least, oh yeah, actually we'll run this dark buff up. Because this is just perfect. We want works. And we'll just take a second here. Now we're going to run in and potentially just nuke our friend. So taking a look here, this right here, we can see, okay, that's how much we're doing against that. Against that. And now with the actual barrier and everything enacted here by Bridal Alaya, we can see how much damage we are getting. And here as well, if we just change a little bit, we can also get a peek at Thunder Aster. So Vivi does have a good mix. If there's one complaint I really have against him, which is a very minor thing, but I think it is worth mentioning, it's essentially that Vivi is kind of missing one of the cool things from a lot of newer mages, which is the, hey, let's do a select a target, so we get the single targets, but over a multiple area. That is one of the things that I'm pretty salty he doesn't have, especially because his trance version in-game is known for having dual casting. So Flare really could have been a select a couple targets, and I really think it would have been fine. I don't think it would have been too necessarily much stronger. But again, I could also see why they probably would not want to do that too. So let's take a second here. You can see we got an extra turn from stun. We're just going to pass, and we're going to let the AI just go to town here. But yeah, for all of the good things that I said again about Zidaine previously, Vivi is kind of the reverse, where Zidaine is physical and immortal spirit slash, ignore fatal damage kind of thing. Vivi is that for re-raise, and both of them are excellent characters in their own right and in their own elements, and pretty interesting little additions to their elements that could push maybe some new things for those elements, give those elements a little bit more of a newer kind of identity and a new way into the fourth year. Of course, there's still a lot of stuff coming with Anniversary, and a lot of stuff that we'll be curious to see how great it is. But I'm pretty on the affirmative side that both Vivi and Zidaine are really great characters hands-on, and upgrade them enjoy them, have fun building them and building new parties and everything like that. And I think the dark enjoyers are probably going to have a little bit more fun just doing these kind of maybe just a dark magic based party, especially if you have Wrath and again Chaos Bahamut. That's just such a great combination looking. And Dark Vision cards, again, as much as some people may not like them, it is great that they have this, you know, they are omnipresent and omni-available, where so many of the Wind VCs are just attached to a specific limited time event, which makes it just a little bit hard, that much harder to essentially get into the Wind element, Dark element. So, end of this, I think Vivi is really great. There's only one thing left to do for the people who stayed till the very end of this very long video. I thought it was going to be shorter today, but I just have so much to talk about our character I really like. And that's putting Vivi on our home screen, because look at that zoom in. Just to compare really quickly, I'm just going to put Thunder Astrius on the screen. Just remember, this is the top of the balcony. This is great. I love stuff like this. I actually wish we were pulled out a little bit more to just see how tiny he is. But yeah, Vivi made it to Wotv before end of service. Congratulations, my boy. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and see you later. We'll definitely be testing him in Arena, the Pure Dark Magic team, next week. Later.